This photo right here came through when I was on a job in Pennsylvania last week, and it meant that the 4 months of emails, negotiations, phone calls, the whole nine were coming to life. Operation Cub Killer, here we come. I'm Trent Palmer. I fly drones for a living and bush planes for fun. Follow along as I journey off the beaten path of aviation. All right, guys, so as most of you guys know, I had an engine out about 4 months ago that had left me running a old, worn-out loaner motor that had actually been in a wreck, and it's a Rotax 912S, the 100 horse, but it's at TBO, so it's completely tired, and again, not knowing the history of the motor, I've never had the most confidence in it. So since that's happened, my friends over at Kitfox, as well as myself, have been trying to work out creative strategies to find a way to get me into a new motor. Now, unfortunately, just due to life and the fact that the wife and I are trying to build a house, I don't have the cash on hand to be going out and buying a brand new motor to put in the plane. It's just not in the cards right now. So luckily, with the help of Kitfox and the Rotax Flying Safety Club, we've come up with a deal that has made it possible for me to get a new engine put in the Freedom Fox. Now, really quickly, why I'm calling it Operation Cub Killer, it's more just to stir the pot with my friends. They all like to give me a hard time for flying a Kitfox. I like giving them a hard time for flying a Cub. So don't take offense to this if you're a Cub flyer. Cubs are great planes. It's just too bad that my Kitfox is going to stomp on it. But anyway, this photo, the photo of an engine crate with a Rotax label on the side, was the start of it all. It meant that it was finally go time. I received this photo from John McBean at Kitfox while I was on a job in Pittsburgh. I promptly flew home, and the following day jumped in the Kitfox alongside Nick, who was in his Kitfox, and we both flew up to Idaho to get the project started. Now, before we got into tearing anything off or wrenching on anything, we needed to get a baseline weight of the plane. It's been a while since I've weighed it, so we went ahead, drained all the fuel, pulled everything out of the plane just to get its complete empty weight. Ended up weighing in at, I think, 856 pounds. Right where I thought it was, maybe a little heavier than last time, but with the upgraded interior that had a little bit heavier foam, plus the 3 pounds of rubber per side that I put on the tires, it actually made sense because I thought I was at 850. And it really doesn't matter what the weight is. We just kind of want to know at the end how much weight we add. I know that I'm going to be adding weight because I'm adding a whole bunch of horsepower and a whole bunch of complexity, so that part's to be determined. But now we have a baseline and we're ready to tear into the plane.
Making sure everything's good. You got a bat just in case.
Now, luckily, I've got some awesome friends. Both Kate and Scott Palmer, as well as Ty Firkin, showed up, in addition to Nick being there, and then the guys at Kitfox. It was great. We had that engine and firewall torn off in about 45 minutes, which has to be like some new record. After that, went ahead, ripped out the panel as well, because guess what? I'm not gonna do all this and not put in a new panel. So once we had everything torn down, then it was time to go ahead and throw the firewall and engine mount on for the new motor. And then, of course, the thing you guys have all been wondering, what motor are we going with? You guys know what that is? That's a Rotax 915. Yes, we're doing it. The Rotax 915, Rotax's flagship motor, 141 horse, turbo, fuel injected, monster of a motor is going in the Freedom Fox. I am so excited for this. This thing is going to be a whole different beast, especially at the altitudes I fly at. Now, unfortunately, due to my schedule and the schedule of Kitfox, which is way too busy, and I'm blaming you guys. I know you guys keep blaming me, but you guys need to stop ordering airplanes because it's really hard for me to get things done when they're that busy over there. But on a serious note, they're very busy. I am as well. So this was just a small window that I had to get up there and get the project started. So the goal was with this one to just get the engine hung, which we were able to do while we were up there. We got the new firewall in place, a new motor mount in place, and then we hung the motor on the actual engine mount. Now, at this current time, the panel's still off being cut because of the motor being the CAN bus ran injected motor. It's a smart motor. None of my old steam gauges would work with it. So we knew we had to go with at least an engine monitoring unit to run the motor and the hydraulic constant speed prop. The Rotax 915 requires a hydraulic constant speed prop, which is a little bit of a trade-off. It's a better prop all around. It's the way you want to go with a turbocharged motor. The only downside is the weight. I already know that the 915 compared to my 912 is like, I think 60 pounds heavier, which is a lot of weight on a light plane like this. So then once you start adding weight even farther out on the nose, we're just dealing with a lot of weight and balance challenges that will have to be addressed. But anyway, we ripped the panel out. The new panel will be going in shortly, but it wasn't back yet, so we didn't even have anything to start working on that. The cowlings have yet to be made. Those are on the schedule, but they're behind a couple other customers' cowlings. So right now, the whole point was to get the thing up there and get this project started. So as you guys probably can guess, I am super excited about this because up here at the elevation that I fly at, here at Stead, the elevation's 5,000 feet. On a hot day in the summer, it's not uncommon to see 8,000 foot density altitudes pretty much every day of the week. So when you factor in an 8,000 foot density altitude, you're gonna lose about 30% of your rated horsepower out of a naturally aspirated engine. So up here on a hot day, when it's 8,000 foot density altitude, I'm only making like 70. That would be if I could get my motor to max RPM to make peak horsepower. But I never do. You know, I'm not seeing 5,800 RPM on takeoff. Normally in the Rotax 912, I'm seeing like 5,400, which is getting close to peak torque, but nowhere near peak horsepower. So I'm probably making 65 effective horsepower up here. Now the Rotax 915 with a constant speed prop is going to make full max RPM to get full horsepower out of it. So the 915 up here on a hot day is still going to make 141 horsepower versus the 65, 70 horsepower I was effectively making out of the 912. This is a huge upgrade for the high density altitude flying that I do. So as I mentioned, Kitfox Aircraft was able to help link me up with the proper companies to help get this project underway. One of those is the Rotax Flying Safety Club, and they're the ones that helped me get into the motor, the actual Rotax 915. So I gotta say a big thank you to the Rotax Flying Safety Club for helping support this project and helping me achieve something that without the help of companies like them, wouldn't have been achievable. So don't be surprised when I go saying thank you to the Rotax Flying Safety Club or the RFSC in the future, because those guys are awesome. They have been a huge support in this process. So obviously I ran out of time on this trip. I flew home with Nick in his plane. Nick had stuff to do. I leave for another job that has me gone for I think a week and a half, but rolls into another. So I have 2 weeks that I'm down. So hopefully in the meantime, the guys at Kitfox will at least be able to get the cowlings ready, and hopefully the panel will come back and we can start getting things together so that the next time I get up there, we can really start putting our heads down and get this thing done. I knew going into it, it was about a 2-week ordeal to really rebuild all the new cowlings. You guys know that I had the round cowl, the bump cowl on my Kitfox. That's gonna have to go. The reason being, the 915 puts out a lot more heat than the 912. Normally that's just kind of what happens when you start putting out horsepower. The byproduct is normally heat. And the round cowls, as much as I love them, they're not the best for cooling. So I'm actually switching to the Series 7 firewall forward, which is the longer motor mount, puts the motor a little bit farther out, but we need that for the space to fit the intercooler and all the excess stuff that comes with the 915. But it also means I'll be going to the smooth cowlings, which are better for cooling. They look a little different, so some of the look of my plane that I think we've all fallen in love with is gonna be gone. Hopefully it'll still look great. I think it will. I actually, if I'm honest, I prefer the look of the smooth cowling. I've just always had the round cowl and kind of rocked it. But Going to the smooth cowl, obviously running a hydraulic constant speed prop after this. We're still waiting on that. That's coming from MT, and unfortunately I didn't put my order in early enough, so there may be a point when we finish this build that I might be running a loaner prop in the meantime until we can get the prop from MT. But the big goal here is to try to make the High Sierra fly-in, and for those of you that don't know what the High Sierra fly-in is, I'll put a link up here to my video from last year, but basically the High Sierra fly-in is the most awesome flying event out there. It's the biggest backcountry fly-in there is, and it's just north of my home airport here in Reno. We hold a huge gathering out on a big dry lake bed, and it's just a good time. And it's also the home of the Stoll Drags, which I got third in last year. It's a short takeoff and landing drag race, head-to-head, 2 airplanes race. Go watch the video, it'll explain it all. But basically, this new setup I think would be huge for the Stoll Drags. It would absolutely help me because last year, although I had the big bore on the motor and a big prop, I was still way outgunned. Everyone else I was racing was putting out 180 horse or had 180 horse motors, aside from Steve Henry, who is putting, I think he's 150 horse, but he has a 40 horse shot of nitrous. So all of them are in the 180 to 190 range. I had about 100, 110. So I was outgunned in that arena, but the Rotax 915, especially with the turbo, making its full horsepower, even up at altitude, I think would give me a lot better chance at being an actual contender for first or second. Now, I don't know about first just because of Draco, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know that we're gonna have the plane done by High Sierra. It's the hope and dream right now, but I understand that if everything went perfectly right now, we would be pushing it. So really, if any one thing goes wrong, I'm probably not gonna have the plane at High Sierra, which is a bummer. But when we started weighing out, should we start it before High Sierra or wait till after? My schedule was horrible before it, but Kitfox's schedule and John up at Kitfox, his schedule was really bad after it, and it was gonna push us into the weather that starts becoming an issue into November and December. So we decided it's time to just get this underway and see if we can make it happen. Fingers crossed. So as I sit right now, we have a Rotax 915 hanging on the front of the Freedom Fox. We are waiting on cowlings, some of the avionics, the panel, and the prop, and a whole bunch of labor to get it all installed. So like I said, I'm off to another job. I apologize, I've not been posting as much as I would like, but I'm still a working man, and when work calls, I gotta go. So I probably won't be posting right after this, but as soon as I get a chance and I'm back up there working on it, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date on what's happening with the build and how it's coming along. And hopefully soon I will have a Cub Killer Freedom Fox. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up here. You know the drill. Like this video if you do. Subscribe if you haven't. Come be my wingman. See you on the next one. Peace.